Hello, this is Oleg Borisenko and Market Access Insider channel. In our programs, we discuss organization and financing for healthcare services and medical technologies in European countries. Today, we're in Paris, France, and we're going to talk to Michel Verhasselt, the founder and CEO of Meditech Access France, one of the best reimbursement consultancies in France. We're going to cover a broad range of topics, including organization and financing of healthcare services in Switzerland, DRG system and add-on reimbursement, as well as coverage of healthcare services within state health insurance system. Hope you will enjoy the program. Michel, thanks for joining us on this program.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So can we start with a general overview of the reimbursement landscape for medical devices in Switzerland?
Okay, so Switzerland is a DRG funding system, so which has been there's still a mix between the different systems, but basically I would say in general this is a DRG-like which has been imported from Germany. There's still a little bit of a part of an evaluation process, which I will talk you a little bit about. But, and also it's a very liberal system. So even if at the very early stages, it's a small country, quite rich country, so there's some local flexibility. So when you have a new device and you're talking to those hospitals, so they sometimes have this ability to pay for innovation, I would say locally, or find some local budget. So this is one thing. So for example, big companies, they may put this country a little bit apart. I think maybe we can talk later about that, but this is a big mistake. For one reason is because of this money which is available, unlike other countries which don't have this money. Second one is the whole process, because in Switzerland this is like probably a 5 years coding process, and it will start with the procedure code. So the first action will be to identify whether I do have a code which is called SHOP or not. And the biggest mistake is to wait, because if I'm starting with a code, then I know that I will just take my ticket for a 5 years period. So if I'm delaying this first action, then we are delaying the whole process. So, and this is really actually unlike other countries which this action will be difficult. This is something which is really, really easy. And sometimes some companies, it's funny, it's so easy that a single physician can do it by himself. And we realize sometimes that, on this technology, the code already exists because Dr. X went to a congress in the US, so he saw a new technology, thought this will be good for Switzerland, and then created the code. And that was it. So, and the shop, which is in a way good, sometimes not so good, because when they do it by their own, they may forget details in the description of the code, which may probably impact the company. So maybe in that case, sometimes we have to correct the coding. But then this is a 5 years process. The first action is getting a code. Once the code exists, then the grouping of the DRG can start, first with an existing DRG, which can be either good or bad, because this system works into two different ways. Actually, there's the DRG which will be composed of a cost rate and a base rate. So the cost rate will indicate the level of the DRG, and the base rate will depend on the type of center, so that can be between 0.9 and 1.1 or 1.2. So a university hospital will be probably around 1.2 or 1.3, and a local hospital will be 0.9, so a little bit less. So you have to multiply the base rate by the cost rate, and then you get the DRG. So the first existing DRG, sometimes in the grouping, can be lower than expected. And then you have to probably engage a discussion either with the centers to correct the grouping, or even with the agency, which is the Swiss DRG, which is an independent and private agency, but working for the different, what they call the partners, and this is very technical actually. It's not a kind of negotiation of price negotiation, it's only technical. The group, they create a new code, a new cost rate, and then this cost rate can be potentially challenged by the partners, either the payers, hospital association, medical association, patient association, etc.
But also, Swiss system adopted add-on reimbursement feature, right, from Germany?
Right. And sorry, I forgot also there is another part which is also a little kind of global for the investment and infrastructure, and specifically at the beginning, but this is changing because this investment part is getting into the DRG step by steps. But this other part was also paid by the canton or by the state. So there was a fixed part and a flexible part. So, but we are focused on the DRG part.
Exactly. But otherwise, classical DRG, but with add-on reimbursement, right? VSFE.
Yeah. So then there's also some a mechanism. I don't know if you know the German system, but there's a kind of add-on reimbursement that can be negotiated, which is called the Zusatzentgelt. So there's no NUB, so there's no specific pathway for innovation, like in Germany, but there's a supplement. So for example, if the existing DRG and if the new device or the innovation is a little bit more expensive, you can also negotiate with the Swiss DRG an add-on that can be put on top of the DRG.
Right. But in general, I think like this number of add-on reimbursement categories is lower, right? Smaller compared to Germany. So, but still it exists, and still it's important mechanism.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So, and there's a couple of actions that can be done also. So to come back to the 5 years process, so first year you create the shop. Once the shop is created, then the statistics can be collected. It's very important because as long as for technology a code does not exist, then they cannot collect the statistics. So of course, I'm talking about a new some innovative device. If it's an existing, exactly like in other DRG systems, because devices are included in a DRG, then you can get immediately into the market and negotiate the price with the hospital. So this is a case-by-case negotiation. There's no specific process. So there's a specific process only when this is a new device which doesn't exist in the current system. So new shop, couple of years, when there's enough statistics at the national level collected by Swiss DRG, then they may look at whether they will keep in an existing DRG or maybe require a new DRG. So you can engage discussion with the Swiss DRG, and when there's enough statistics, then again, that can be done automatically by a specific center if the centers and if the controller of the DRG system in a specific hospital think there's a need of a new DRG. It may do a submission. And again, so we have to also be careful about the date of the submission, because the shop and the DRG, it's every year, it's around June, before end of June or early July, that the submission can be done. So it's important to get prepared and as a company maybe engage discussion with the center so that we make sure that they will do the submission either for an add-on or for a new DRG.
So, and because it's a DRG-based country, it means that at least for the reimbursement part, evidence doesn't play a big role, right?
Not at first. So, of course, there's a reimbursement list. So, I mean, there's in parallel. So this is specific. It's a little bit like in Belgium and France, but this is absolutely not upfront. So it means that in the first years, the new devices which are not reimbursed, which are not in the positive list, are in a kind of gray zone. So probably the strategy will be to stay in a gray zone as long as possible, because not be too much proactive. My suggestion would be, okay, just stay like that, but just, you can stay in this gray zone as long as the volume of product is reasonable, so that it will not attract attention from the insurance. Once the volume is growing, then there's kind of ring, and the payers will start say, "Oh, be careful! What is this new product? So it's becoming expensive. So we need to be sure that it's in the positive list." And at that moment, they will go and see the medical society and say, "Okay, so you need to do an assessment of this new technology." At that moment, either they will do that by themselves, but in the most cases, because they don't have the money, they will come back to the companies, or the one company if it's only one company, or maybe all the companies if there are multiple players, and say, we have to organize a submission, an evaluation for this product, or this technology, which will be, and then the template at the healthcare office, federal office, OFSP. And this is exactly the same process as an ICE or HAS, so it's a clinical and health economical. Because be careful, so there's a part which is a little bit the same as for the other countries, but there is also a local part. So for example, all the health economical aspects has to be calculated with the local cost.
What are the approximate timelines for evaluation by Federal Office of Public Health?
It can be about 6 months.
About 6 months.
I would say more than that. So it's probably 6 months to be set up and organized, because it's a kind of complex, because it's not something that you will do in your own. You have also to organize local meetings and also collaboration with the medical societies. So the realization, so the setup of the dossier can be a little bit long. And then, of course, after that, there's evaluation with different steps and different results. So the challenge is that there's different results, can be positive, middle or negative. And also, this is again my recommendation not to go too quick, because if the evaluation is negative, then all reimbursement is blocked. So if you go too early because you don't have clinical evidence, for example, then there's a strong possibility to get a negative appraisal in, and then you're no more in a gray zone. So this is no more possible to sell.
And then one of the outcomes, as you said, in the, let's say, intermediate solution is to get a conditional reimbursement, right? Reimbursement with certain restrictions, either by center or by indication for a certain period of time. So,
for me, it's not well defined. So actually, this is a case by case situation. It's not defined by any a particular regulation. So you have a new device, you have a add-on, and then you try to get some cases in certain hospitals.
All right. And for the evaluation by the Federal Office of Public Health, what are the general evidence requirements? And again, how, for example, Switzerland is compared with Belgium or France?
Well, I mean, on the one hand, there's the one global clinical evidence, which is also based, like for the others, on the pure clinical, but there's also a health economical part. So they will do both. The health economical will be also evaluate the budget impact, for example, in certain centers, and because it's different in certain cantons, in certain hospitals, so it's not the same in Geneva, in Lugano or Basel. So you have also to adapt, because I said that there's different base rates. Depending on the hospitals, you have to make this evaluation in different categories of hospitals. And sometimes it may take time to organize and get this local evaluation. You can take, for example, take a cost effectiveness model which has been realized in Germany or other countries, but you have to adapt it to the local situation.
So if you compare in your experience chances of success between France, Belgium, and Switzerland, how would you rank Switzerland compared to other countries?
Difficult to say because it depends on the strategy again. So the strategy is to be good. So if you are well, first you get your shop in time. The hypothesis is that you have a new device, you get your shop in time, then you can start your cases, and it's probably easier than compared to Belgium and France because hospitals are more money. So, and if you have the code, you can do your case. It's a question of sales presence and convicting, and of course, probably on the willingness to pay and also to get the new technology from the physician. So if they don't want it, just if we consider that they want this technology, they have the ability to pay and to do it once they have these coding mechanisms ready. Then they can collect the cases and increase. Then when they will enter this evaluation part, I would say ideally this will be good to do it once you already have done it in countries like France, and specifically if you already have a positive result in France, you know that when you will engage that process in Switzerland, the chances for successes will be much higher. If you do that too early, even before you will do it in France, then that would be difficult. So, but basically, in terms of early access, I would say probably Switzerland is easier. France will be good as long as you do forfait innovation and you will be successful. But if you can get it, that's good. Even because the forfait innovation in France is a real reimbursement. Actually, it's not a funding; it's a real reimbursement. So even if it's conditional, you can also publicly say that you got it in the country which is difficult. And of course, to come back to these final results. So when you have a reimbursement, specific DRG, and positive evaluation in Switzerland, that's done.
Exactly.
I have no examples in Switzerland where you have to stop. I would say if you have a new technology, strong enough, good price, so you can go.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Can be the other mistakes that should be avoided. So I remember that there was a reimbursement which was a certain number of coils. So to make sure that because the Swiss DRG is an agency which is a little bit, it is very technical. So if you give the wrong information, they will do it wrong. Mm-hmm. So you have to make sure that you will do it correctly. The right labeling for the shop, the right labeling for the DRG, and the right categories. If you miss something, then of course, then you may have problems in terms of reimbursement.
Absolutely.
The other mistakes is also to listen to some consultants that will probably invite you to do the evaluation too early. Mm-hmm. I would strongly recommend not being too quick.
Mm-hmm. All right. So in Switzerland, there is also a culture of health technology assessment and the practice. So apart from this evaluation for statutory health insurance coverage as a positive list, as you said, is there any big role for health technology assessment in Switzerland, or is it more or less again?
No, this is around that point. But I didn't hear about any other HTA or whatever.
Yeah, there are just some very small, like from Swiss Medical Board, but again, very limited. Yes. Yeah. Are there any ongoing or planned reforms in the reimbursement system in Switzerland?
Not from what I see. The biggest challenge was the change of the implementation of the Swiss DRG, which has been set up in 2012. And then, of course, every year there's a meeting organized by Swiss DRG with small adjustments. So, for example, after they have their different versions, 1.0, 2.0, etc. And every year we discover that, for example, investment had been integrated, I think, 2 years ago within the DRG. So I think there's no big change, but we have to follow this evolution of the Swiss DRG.
Yeah. So probably the biggest changes would be expected on their ambulatory reimbursement side with TARMED nomenclature.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. All right. And TACU. So there's the field reimbursement. Actually, which is actually an issue because in France, for example, they with telemedicine and with SICAM and so on, so the home reimbursement is well covered. In Germany, Switzerland, this is an issue, and so because once as long as you are within the hospital, this is okay. But if you get outside, this is becoming more complex and probably a little bit old, and TAM and TARCO are going to be reformed.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Michel, for this interview. That was very insightful.
Thank you. Welcome.